Hey friends, this is Steve Guttenberg. This guy over here is Matt. He believes in 3D audio and virtual surround and a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not on that train just yet. But Matt, I gotta hand it to him. He doesn't give up easy. That's why we're doing this thing. And he's gonna try to convince me, sort of, kind of, maybe a little bit. So give it a shot. Give it your best shot.
What do you need to be convinced
I'm
of?
trying to be convinced that, well, I think that stereo at its best works really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the attempts that I've heard at 3D audio over the years just sounds kind of, I mean, if with some recordings it can sound really good, and with other recordings it can sound just kind of silly. There's this kind of throwing sound around, and it's a big turnoff to me, which is why I guess I'm kind of hostile to it. So
Sure.
that's my problem.
Yeah, it's understandable. And it's my problem too when you're putting a lot of work into something and then there are other gimmicks out there claiming to be something somewhat similar, and they either A, don't have an effect, or they have too much of an effect and it's changing the original content, whether it's spatially or like the actual characteristics of the sound itself.
The tonal character of the sound suffers a lot.
It does. That's one of the biggest things too with spatial sound is the trade-off between coloring the sound and getting the spatial information correctly. And there's a lot of information you could discuss and unpack in that statement, but this stuff, when you talk about the best form of stereo, you know, if you think about that a little bit too, like the guy who invented stereo, Alan Blumlein, around like 87 years ago in his British filing patent, mentioned that his invention was flawed, that he intended to reproduce binaural information over two speakers, which is possible. Like, the guy was super smart and he knew that that was possible. He just didn't do it. So he had what were called widely spaced stereo speakers, and that's what we've been doing since then. And usually they're 60 degrees. And this is like the stereo triangle. It's an equilateral triangle. A lot of people set it up in that way. And what it does is it generally just creates a huge time distortion between your left ear to right speaker and right ear to left speaker. And so what happens is you get sort of a mangled amount of information. Your brain doesn't really process it correctly because the playback system itself isn't natural. It's not the concert hall. And so you have to take the ensemble that exists in the recording and somehow push it through these two speakers and have the placement set up correctly. And that's impossible really with these two speakers as they are. But Blumlein, he suspected that you could have a continuous sound field from these two speakers that would produce a natural binaural sound field, at least frontal location. You could put the same two behind you and extend stereo, or have 5.1 and do the same thing.
Oh, he knew about that? He was thinking that far ahead?
I don't know. He never explicitly mentioned the extended stereo piece.
Okay.
But this is part of the evolution of that science.
Okay.
And so if done correctly, and it's not some gimmick, whether it's virtual surround sound or other sort of methods to just like bounce sound around a room or what have you, there is a specific way of achieving 3D audio over loudspeakers. But like in anything in physics, there's usually one way to do something. So
You could build a wall between the two speakers, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what...
You could have the Mexicans pay for it.
Well,
I couldn't resist. I was saving that all day.
That's a good one. It wouldn't need to be that
It does
big.
work though, because you know we actually in audio we used to sell things you could put between your two speakers.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you need. You need a barrier that goes all the way up to your nose and then all the way in between the two speakers.
Right.
And so the question really remains, like, it's kind of weird that that's actually the solution for a stereo playback system.
Right. Well, it is funny though, and it works.
It works really well. It's the solution. It's just now, how do you just do that digitally so you make everyone's life easier?
But then you're messing around with time and phase, right? That's essentially your tools.
Not necessarily.
Really? Okay, what are the other
Well, you're messing around with time, but not... I mean, phase is used like pejoratively, I think.
All right, I was using it. You caught me.
Yeah. I was
using it pejoratively.
You are messing with time. Time
phase, same.
Yeah. But if done correctly, I mean, I think it's the last frontier in playback audio systems to give people immersion, whether they're in their video games or movies or music. The more you can connect people to the audio content itself, moving from a mono speaker that sounds like it's coming from a telephone to, a mono speaker that has better speaker qualities to stereo, and then you sort of build out from there. It's like TV was black and white and then moved to color, and then we get more and more detail about something. We get more connected to the content. And I think that's been the driver, I think, for me. So when approaching spatial audio development, it's been about fixing, or at least achieving the last thing I think is missing in playback systems. Not timbre. There are tons of great speakers like these that just sound fine. Some are better than others or whatever you, but they're all spatially deprived. And you can just look back to the guy who invented this thing and take a couple of cues from that. And with some fancy computer science, you can achieve a correct approach to doing this.
You know, it's funny. A couple of years ago, there was an AES, an Audio Engineering Society convention. It was at some one of those conventions, and there was a guy there who was talking about what will recording and playback be like in 50 years. And the thing, you can make up all kinds of silly things to say about what that is, but his take was that it would be almost exclusively headphone based, and that you could create a 360-degree immersive field from headphones easier than you can from speakers, and people don't want to have speakers and wires and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, it's just going to be headphones, and that people will mix for headphones, and, the headphones could be tiny and blah, 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 and wireless, blah, and all that stuff. And I was thinking, that, from the perspective of this time, not knowing what 50 years from now would be like, that seems to be right, actually.
Yeah, I forget. There's a name of a company. I learned about it from hearing a live sound engineer, I think from Metallica, talking about this technology where basically people in audiences are going to be wearing headphones instead of hearing line array systems in the stadium. And so this is like, wait, so everyone's going to come in like you do in a movie.
Well, they already have headphones.
They already have, and they can use theirs, right? And then the live sound engineer will be mixing it not for line arrays, but for everyone's
headphones.
And you can hear different, maybe you can hear what the lead singer is hearing in their headphones, and you can have this more personal experience of
and make it as loud as you want.
Make it as loud as
soft.
And in fact, that's the imperative. It's coming from the loud police, I think. There are concerns about people's health in these types of concerts.
Wow, that's nice to know.
Yeah.
I hope I'm around for that, because I'd avoid going to concerts usually because they're too freaking loud for me. So.
Yeah, there are people who are considering that. I think it's a long way from there, but headphones started out as a convenience, I think. But they do have more capabilities than loudspeakers, just by the de facto nature of headphones. But also the de facto nature of headphones comes with a huge spatial sort of challenge. A challenge to achieve spatial accuracy, because there's so much separation. You now have the in-head localization problem many people are familiar with, I think, in the space.
But actually, I have a thing. I know, because I've been a big booster of headphones for a long time, and people say, I hate headphones, it sounds all stuck inside my head. And I go, I understand why you say that, but the thing is, headphone listening is inherently an unnatural way to hear sound. Your brain says, what the hell is that? Why is it stuck inside my head? And the brain's default mix position is it's inside your head because it doesn't know what the hell's going on, right? I said, but once you can get past that and just relax and stop being so judgmental about being, crotchety about wearing headphones, it isn't in your head. It's kind of around your head. It's encircling your head, and as you listen, and I feel like a shrink sometimes. I said, and just let it go. Listen in the dark, and you will hear that it isn't inside, with a good recording at least, it's not in your head, it is around your head. And in essence, you're hearing, to be overly simplistic, from the microphone's position. So mic, all the shit that happens in between, and then the driver and the headphone. It's a more one-to-one relationship. Headphone, microphone, diaphragm, headphone, driver. It's a more linear trip, let's just say.
I think, your brain can play lots of tricks on you too. I think in-ear headphones potentially have more of a chance of being spatially correct than over-the-ear headphones, because over-the-ear headphones are activating your pinna quite incorrectly. We don't really locate sound 90 degrees. So when sound is hitting your pinna at 90 degrees, you're getting all kinds of spatial cue location distortion. And really you need frontal and rear about 5 to 15 degrees in the front and 160, 175 from the rear. And that's how our brains appreciate where sound is coming from. The pinna are doing that. They're doing the location detection, if you will, right? And so when you put headphones on, you create a completely unnatural environment. But if you were to create the right system, the ideal headphone would be one that goes directly into your ear and bypasses your pinna, in that you model your pinna. So if you were to hear the difference in the dark between your experience having what you think is sort of out of your head, and then you were to do a real personal head-related transfer function, you probably would get even more of an out-of-head experience.
Okay.
I would argue, and it's interesting because speakers and headphones are on the opposite end of spectrums of the issue of spatial audio. With speakers, there's not enough separation. With headphones, there's too much separation. And so the efforts...
Nearfield is the middle ground.
Well, I mean, in each of them, like in loudspeakers, you mean Nearfield?
Yeah, like 4 or 5 feet away.
Yeah, but even, so that's a good approximation to getting it. Then laser beams is the next thing, making sure that sound is only hitting your left ear and your right ear.
Okay.
And just a little bit of interference,
okay,
so that you have the free field space of a loudspeaker system, so that you are out of your head. And then, so there's this inward sort of movement of trying to move speakers a little bit more separated, like the little barrier you're talking about, and then headphones with less separation. When you achieve that in both those systems correctly, that movement toward the middle of a compromise is when you can fix these spatial issues that exist.
Because I've been experimenting a lot with Nearfield recently.
Yeah.
And I did so much Nearfield. I do it all the time with my computer. I have Nearfield speakers, right? But lately I've been doing it with speakers I'm writing about, and just pull them way out into the room, further than I ever had. So now they're about 8 feet from the wall behind them, and I'm in an office chair, so I can roll back and forth relative to the speakers. And I find like right at like 4 feet for the spacing, which is I guess about 5 feet away from each other. It's like a camera focus. You just go, yeah, there it is. I got it right now, kind of thing. And it's pretty amazing.
It's a good way to eliminate a lot of the room issues that you might have.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing. Yeah, you're eliminating, because even when the speakers are 4 feet away from the wall behind them, it's there. It's definitely a difference between 4 feet and 8 feet away from the wall.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think we're nearing the end, but so was there any place, we talked about this before and I forgot what you said, that you can direct people to learn more about your ideas or anything?
Yeah, if people are
just in general, not your specific thing, but any place? You're a fan of Edgar Cherry's thing.
Yeah. Is definitely very interesting work. You can learn more about our information by contacting us. Our website is l2il.com. That's the numeral 2, l2il.com. And there's just a contact email if you're interested in our spatial audio technology. Okay. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. This was fun.
Yeah, pleasure.
And I feel like I learned something. Thanks.
Me as well, always.
Bye-bye.